Hello, everyone. This is Kripa Anand, and welcome to the She and Success podcast, powered by She and Success Business Magazine, a platform dedicated to spotlighting the voices, strategies, and journeys of women leaders and entrepreneurs who are shaping Canada's business and policy landscape. Today, we are breaking down the barriers to AI adoption. In 2026, you don't need to be a software giant to leverage machine learning. You just need a practical strategy to turn your data into ROI. Joining us today is Sreejata Chatterjee, CEO and co founder of HiVanya Inc. Sreejata is a three times founder and AI practitioner with over 15 years of extensive experience. After successfully exiting her first venture backed company, LeadSift, she now helps non tech SMEs bridge that digital divide. She's also a professor of data analytics and a leading voice in the women in machine learning community. So, before further ado, let's welcome the special guest we have today. Srijata, welcome to the podcast. Such a pleasure to have you with us.
Hello, Kripa. Thank you so much for having me.
Now, Srijata, I'm very excited for this conversation today. There's so much that you've achieved and you've done so far. So let's start the conversation by understanding a little bit of background and story, right? Your entrepreneurial journey, we understand, started with a master's thesis in natural language processing that turned into a successful tech exit. So I'd love for you to explain where did the journey start from, and what are some of the lessons that you have learned as a woman building tech startups? Go ahead.
So I definitely started with the tech background, and then this was many years ago, maybe 15 years ago. And at that time, there weren't really many women in technology
Yeah.
or in entrepreneurship, so it was a
Yes.
pretty lonely journey back then. Um, so a lot of imposter syndrome for sure.
Hmm.
So I just learned to kind of do the uncomfortable things over and over again and fake it. Not sure if I
Till you
made it
make
yet.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And then also like another lesson was kind of it's normal to be underestimated pretty often.
Mm-hmm.
So as women, I think especially the higher we move up in the chain,
Yeah.
it becomes more and more like obvious. But also the good thing is because there's not enough of us there, it's easier to make your mark and to be remembered. So that's like kind of two sides
Yeah.
of the coin.
So
Yeah.
that's a very balanced perspective there, because I can understand, when you're entering a male dominated field specifically and you are maybe the only or one of the very few women in the room, the energy of the room, the vibe of the room, everything that you were saying, all those little things, they matter at the end of the day. And as you said, there are two sides to this coin, right? So, yes, women being lesser in this space right now, there's a huge opportunity for women to also make a mark here. And right now I think there's not a better time to be an entrepreneur right now, because there's literally with AI, with everything that's going on, I think that's a very balanced approach. So thank you for that. um, Now let's explore how AI can be made practical and accessible for non-tech small businesses, because one side of people, they are very technical, they understand how everything works. The other side, they are the normal regular founders and entrepreneurs that no one talks about, and now they have this conversation around AI. Where do they start from? So Shwajata, please help us understand, where should SMBs begin using AI, and also that they see immediate ROI from that. Go ahead.
The industry has never changed this fast, like let's say with internet or mobile phones or what have you, right? It's always
Mm-hmm.
been much slower, but this time it's just at breakneck speed, and it's changed the tech landscape so much that tech
Mm-hmm.
people are on board. But for the non-tech businesses, I've actually done a lot of workshops over the last couple months in
Mm-hmm.
Nova Scotia, all around Nova Scotia, and maybe talked to over 200 small medium business owners and executives, and the appetite is insane, which is great. But the biggest problem, when I ask them what is the problem you're trying to solve, they always say we don't even know what it can do, so how can we know what problem it can solve? So
Yeah.
it's starting from like very much a blank slate, right? And all the noise online doesn't make it easy to choose where to start. And So I think the best way to start is not look for complete transformation, but
Hmm.
just make one thing easy, right? So
Yeah.
pick one thing that you have to do every day or every week, like repetitively, and you absolutely hate doing it, and it takes way too long.
Right.
I think that would be a great starting point to launch off on where to start using AI. Fix
Definitely, that's a
that.
very
Yeah,
candid and practical advice. What you're saying, right? Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So I think if you can solve that, then after that, it kind of becomes addictive. And it's not possible to learn everything right now because there is way too much. But yeah, it's
No,
easier to get in.
yeah, I agree with you. There's an influx of information right now. We don't know what to believe, what not to believe. And specifically, when we see simpler things working out, they're also beneficial for us, right? So, great advice there also. All this experience that you've gathered in all those years, it's showing up. Let's now move into the conversation where we discuss how your consulting services are building confidence through hands-on AI adoption. So we discussed the common challenges that SMBs face with AI, right? But how exactly are you giving a solution, and why should SMBs choose this over the traditional available things in the market out there?
So for SMBs right now, for most non-tech SMBs, let's focus on non-tech SMBs because tech ones are kind of in a different league right now.
Yeah.
So for the non-tech SMBs, getting custom solutions is like, quite far away. It's more about training and um, onboarding and really learning.
Hmm.
There's a whole pipeline to becoming AI enabled, if you will, right? So the first part of it definitely has to be education.
Yeah.
So that's the hurdle that I'm helping my clients get over. Once they're over that, they learn what it can do for you. After that, we usually help them map their current state of everything. So what are their current processes? What is the data that they have? How do they handle things, right? So then comes actually solving those problems. And with AI, the the interesting thing is, and the great thing is, when we map out all the processes, we figure out that we don't even need to automate all the processes. Some of them can just be
Yeah.
thrown away.
Hmm.
So like if we just start with automating the process, we'll just automate things that we don't even need to because they could be thrown away.
Yeah. And you only discover that once you are at that stage where your mind is actively working for that, right? Yeah.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
No,
Yeah.
definitely. I agree with you. And before we go any further into this conversation, here's a special message that I'd like to give to all the listeners, specifically to all the small business owners watching. In 2026, the biggest risk isn't using AI, it's ignoring it. You don't need a PhD to benefit from automation. AI is a tool, not a replacement for your expertise. So if you can identify one repetitive task, as Sujata mentioned, that drains your team's energy, you've literally found your starting point. So don't wait for that perfect time to innovate. Start where you are and use the resources available through experts like Srijata and turn your small business into a tech forward leader. Now, coming back to you, Srijata, practical workshops. You mentioned that you've given a few of them in the past weeks. Uh, what they do is they also turn that fear that you have instilled in your mind into a functional roadmap, right? And that's exactly what the Canadian SME ecosystem needs right now. More and more people like yourself. Um, so let's do a little time travel now. And you are actually the perfect. I do this in majority of my podcasts, but you are actually a very interesting person to answer this. In this time traveling, say there was a time machine, right, and we were traveling 5 or 10 or 15 years into the future. When you're getting out of that time machine, how exactly do you envision artificial intelligence evolving into and changing the entire Canadian ecosystem? So where does your imagination take you?
So actually, like one of the good things about things moving fast, totally going on a tangent, is that something that might not work today because AI is pretty new. Like maybe
Mm.
something doesn't work today or isn't perfect. Like we can't find a solution for that.
Yeah.
We could in 2 months. So I definitely think that in the near future, uh, computers and AI will be doing most of the work. Like it's not
Yeah.
going to be passive. where we ask it to do something and it summarizes things for us. It shows things in a dashboard. It's going to take the initiative. It's going to know what needs to be done
Yeah.
and how or why it needs to be done and how to get it done. And it's going to get it done and then send us one notification. So it's going to be way more autonomous. And
Mm-hmm.
human roles, instead of giving it instructions, is going to shift into more defining the problem, making better judgment calls,
Mm-hmm.
testing the AI, and guiding it to do better, right? So giving it feedback into doing better, but
Yeah.
it will be improving itself.
No, definitely. Another question that pops up in my mind as a layman, right? Since you're the technical person right now in this conversation, I also, when AI started, coming up in the conversations a couple of months ago now, people also said that very soon we'll all be having our own AI avatars, right? Or avatar, as you call it in Hindi. So, how exactly do you think we are in that journey? Is it going to be happening? Is it already happening? Or will it be happening in the next 1 year, 2 years, 5 years? Or is it still like a long 10-year journey wherein actual functional, two people can be at two places at the same time? So, omnipresence, is that something you're exploring with AI also?
100%. I do think that will happen. And is it happening already? uh, People are definitely trying, and
Yeah.
there are a lot of the cutting edge technologies where you can train an avatar of yourself. It's called digital twins. um, so you can do, and like they can do your consulting for you, they can do sales for you. There's a company called One Mind where all their like they're training AI to do the sales for them, and then there's
Mhm.
another company where they're training the AI to do all the purchasing for them.
Wow. So both side of things they are taken care of. Smart.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I
The,
definitely think that will it will it will get there, because there are some things that we enjoy doing. That's where we should be. And then there are some things where we don't enjoy, and our digital avatars or our digital twins should take care of those things.
no, definitely. You've painted quite a picture there. Thank you so much for that insight, Srijata. Now, we can't have a conversation about all these things specifically in Canada and not talk about diversity, right? So, community leadership, it plays a huge part in every conversation, specifically in a country which is called immigrants country, right? So I'd love to understand from your perspective, Shujata, why is diversity so important in AI leadership and community growth in today's time?
I will take a slightly different angle to it. Instead of um, immigrant diversity, maybe the women's diversity side of it, gender diversity. And I think, well, I guess it would be valid for either way. But if we don't have diversity and we're building something that will shape the world, which will shape the future,
Yeah.
there will be so many biases and just blind spots if we don't have the diversity. Because there are things that others don't see, and it's not because they don't want to see, it's impossible for them to see and notice.
Yeah.
But there's also other dark things happen. So if you had read the news about Grok, where they had launched this spicy version, and everybody over Twitter or X was creating these images where they were able to undress like over 3 million women and children pictures. Over 3 million women and children.
Oh
So
my God.
we definitely need diversity to stop absolute crime like that.
No, definitely. That's a great point that you've mentioned, because there's also a lot of privacy concerns that are now coming up in the picture, right? Because AI is also as much available as for the good people as for the bad people, like, right? This
100%.
simply speaking. So thank you for highlighting that. And what suggestion, on that note, would you like to give to all the listeners, all the leaders, or anyone who is in a position of power? What should they do to make sure that, if at all they are using AI, they are using it with utmost responsibility that is, on their shoulders as well?
Second part of the question is great, because I think as humans we know when we're doing the right thing and when we're doing the wrong thing. Because and most people do the right thing with technologies, but as with everything, like you can always use every technology in a bad way, right? Like a sharp knife, you could make a beautiful dinner out of it, or you could kill somebody. And it's exactly the same. And it's very difficult to like kind of control the sale of sharp knives,
Yeah.
right? So I think it's the same with technology. But definitely the leaders need to be more aware and put
Right.
safeguards around it.
No, that's a conversation that was, much needed and a very timely point. So thank you for highlighting that. I'm loving this conversation, Shrejata, and definitely I'd love for you to be back with us. Hopefully, the next episode that we do, in person, so that more and more people are also able to see the in-person impact that we create. But for now, before we let you go, if there's one final piece of advice that you have for our listeners today, specifically women who are overwhelmed when it comes to AI, because men are still open to exploring and doing new things, but when it comes to women, the, when we see stats, there's still a percentages that is hesitant to even take that first step. So for all those, what would you tell them and why?
So interesting thing in the workshop that I was doing, and it was all around Nova Scotia. I'm from Halifax, Nova Scotia.
Yeah.
So in Halifax or even in the rural areas, in every workshop there was almost 75% attendance of women. So I was so happy to see that.
Wow.
It was completely organic. Um, so women definitely have a good appetite for it, and I'm so happy. I'm here for it. If you're feeling overwhelmed with AI, that really means that you're early to the game and you're on time. If you don't
Hmm.
care or you're just afraid, that means maybe you need to buckle up a little more. But if you're overwhelmed, it means you're already trying, you're already reading. So
Yeah.
don't worry, you're there. Just find one thing that you would like to solve and go with it. Once you solve one, it kind of becomes a habit.
A golden advice, a simple thing that can do wonders for your business. Also, Shrejata, if anyone wants to connect to you or know more about you, where can they get more information?
Oh, they can absolutely go to our website, HiVanya.com, or just find me on LinkedIn. I have a pretty
Perfect.
unique name. Easy to
Yes, and
find.
also that reminds me, I was just about to wrap up with this question. Hi, Vanya, what exactly is the significance or the story behind this name?
So Vani is actually my dog's name, and I am
Okay.
absolutely obsessed with her. So when I started building AI, and it's going to be an assistant to all of us, right? So it's
Yeah.
like telling somebody, "Hey, Vanya, can you do this
Oh,
for me?" That's the kind of where the
pretty
name came
interesting. Pretty
from.
interesting. I'm
Yeah,
sure the dog is so happy and over the top. That's great. All right.
she's
That
very
was a pretty
spoiled.
fun episode, Shujata. I really enjoyed the conversation. Thank you so much for being here and doing this with us.
Thank you, Kripa. I really enjoyed it as well. Thank you.
All right, that was Sreejata Chatterjee from HiVanya Inc., a masterclass on how to turn complex data analytics into simple, profitable strategies for the everyday business owner. To all the listeners, thank you so much for tuning in to the She and Success podcast, powered by She and Success Business Magazine. Be sure to subscribe for more expert insights and visit sheandsuccess.ca for more resources. And lastly, a very special thank you to our exclusive shipping partner, Purolator, for their ongoing commitment to supporting women entrepreneurs and helping them build, grow, and lead successful businesses across Canada. I'll see you all in the next episode. Kripa Anand signing off.